Welcome back. Welcome in. This is Country Roads Confidential at earsports.com, a CBS sports podcast. I am Mike Casaza, passing the ball around the ankles, over the head, slightly ahead, slightly behind, Chris Anderson. We cover an 0-2 in the Big 12 basketball team, Chris. First 12 games of the year, West Virginia lost twice to two pretty good teams, it turns out. And then in a span of 48 hours, West Virginia lost twice to two Big 12 teams. 0-2 in the conference, 11 straight Big 12 road losses. And then I don't know what we saw Monday night. Continuation, culmination, I don't know, but certainly a frustrating scene involving Bob Huggins, Eric Stevenson, and we've kind of been here before too.
Yeah, with all of it, with the 0-2 start, with the losing on the road, with it felt there was a point there where I mean, eventually West Virginia took the lead, but I was thinking this right before they did, after they had cut it back down to 2, and I said to myself, "Wow, West Virginia is playing horribly, just horrid basketball. They're not getting the calls, and yet here they are in position in this game, and then they lost." And that's kind of been that's been the MO for West Virginia in Big 12 play, in Big 12 road play, especially for the last couple of years. Like it always seems like we're saying, wow, they're playing horrible, but it's close. And then they lost. Wow, they're playing horrible. It's close, but they lost. And that just happened again last night. And then, as you mentioned, the Stevenson stuff, the Hugggins, getting upset, that seemed to be building as the game was going on. You could kind of just sense it was coming. Both with Stevenson getting the tech and fouling out, and with Hugggins just kind of boiling over all of it.
Stevenson is wired different. You accept it when he's making threes and bringing your team back into the game, but you don't accept it when it goes over the edge like it did last night. And then, I mean, this is not the first time. It's not the first time his road trip this has happened. They've really kind of tried to have him settle down a little bit, and he's no value on the bench. He's much better on the floor, and he's a guy that can shoot him back into a game like he did last night. And again, continuation, culmination, I don't know, but rewind for us, Chris. Early second half Saturday, just 2 days earlier, this started to heat up a little bit where a similar situation happened. Not identical, but as Hugggins would say, it was a look at me thing instead of look at us, and it did carry over.
Yeah, that game on Saturday, he was frustrated for the entire first half. Ticky-tack fouls and some frustration foul in there. And then early in the second half, I think it was literally like the first minute, picks up that technical. And Hugggins said afterwards that like that technical swung things. And so this isn't a, after the fact kind of thing from Hugggins, kind of pointing back to both games. He said it after that first game. Like that was crucial. That technical hurt. That technical swung momentum. West Virginia was winning at that point and winning by double digits, I think, or close to it. And then all the momentum swung the other way. Stevenson had to sit out, was able to come back in, then almost, quickly fouled out towards the end. And then you're back down to it this game. Same thing. Like they come back. They come back. That 3 gives West Virginia the lead. And as he's going back down the court, apparently gestures. You couldn't really see it on TV replay. I didn't really see it, but Jerry Pollard's got to call it from all the way at the other end of the court and chase it down and gets him for it. And, instead of a 2-point lead, now I think they only made 1 of 2 free throws, but they get the free throws, they get the ball. Stevenson's even more foul trouble now, and it's on. Like that was, you could just feel it, because with Stevenson out, the offense is bad. Offense was really bad against Oklahoma State, but with Stevenson out, it's even worse. And he just keeps getting in foul trouble to the point that offense just never gets going.
Fouls out on an offensive foul a few moments later, and that's curious to me because he'd been shooting so well. He was hot, and you could tell. And was searching for spots, finding and getting the ball. All of a sudden he drives, and then again, maybe not what you want him doing if you're West Virginia, probably what you want him doing if you're Oklahoma State. He had nothing going when he dribbled the ball. And at that point, I think he wants something to happen. He wants to make something positive, maybe too much. And then officiating was really weird in the second half. First half, one of those things where you sit down at halftime, like, wow, that was a tidy first half. I think there were 8 total free throws, 20 total fouls. We end up with, trying to think here, 26 fouls in the second half and far more free throws. Not sure the game was so different. It did get physical, but again, you have to adjust sooner or later. And like, if you're a guy who's haven't been able to drive all game and they've been calling some curious things, putting your head down, putting your arm out and trying to will your way to the basket is not going to help. And he ends up in the bench, and they just did not have an offensive threat after that. And more to the point, they had one fewer offensive threat. They only had 2 guys who could score last night, Stevenson and Mitchell. And then it's a little bit easier to focus on Mitchell when you don't have a guy that can spread out off of him and stand on the perimeter and catch a pass and do something with it. And if it's just Mitchell on the block or in the high post, it's a little bit easier to guard when he doesn't have options around him. And the point for West Virginia is their offense really struggled here. If you're looking at their box score here, 16 for Mitchell, 17 for Stevenson, 8 for Matthews. No one else had more than 4 points. No one else made more than 1 shot. That's not going to do it here, which leads to this, Chris. Is it just Big 12 defenses and familiarity? Or is this offense in a rut? Because they were scoring 80 points a game. They were 50% in North. I understand non-conference opponents, but still, they would struggle with those numbers in the past in non-conference play. And just all of a sudden, thump right into a brick wall when big play starts here.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it is, because it doesn't seem on the surface like these teams are doing something drastically different than the teams that West Virginia played in non-conference play. But West Virginia's offense, it's stagnant, and it seems different than what was going on in non-con play, because in non-conference they were passing. I remember at some point, the numbers didn't start out great, but about halfway through non-conference, their assist rate per made shot skyrocketed, which was a sign of ball movement and getting good shots. And that's good offense. If you are getting, and they were getting, 60-70% of their made baskets were assisted baskets, which is just fantastic numbers. In that game last night, and I talked about it in the rapid reactions, it just the first possession for both teams of the second half was a microcosm of what happened in that game, because Oklahoma State went with a screen, toss it up, which was a ball was supposed to be at the elbow. He got pushed out to the 3-point line, pass it to that guy, fake handoff, real dribble handoff, screen the screener, boom, wide open 3 in the corner. And you come back down to the other end of the court, and the ball goes out of bounds. And then West Virginia takes it out of bounds. And the play is Stevenson gets it in the left corner. The other 4 people stand around and watch. And then Stevenson does a one-on-one spinning fadeaway jump shot with no one in rebounding position. Now, that shot went in, but that's not sustainable. That's not sustainable offense. That's not good offense. And that is not winning offense. You're not going to win a basketball game running offense like that. And that was just kind of again, a microcosm of what West Virginia was doing all day. There were times where Joe Toussaint, and he is more of a one-on-one player and a dribble drive kind of guy, and he's doing all this stuff by himself. There was another time where Emmett Matthews is Matthews does a lot of things well, but maybe the thing he does least well is dribble drive, attacking a guy off the dribble. And he was dribbling, trying to dribble attack his man into triple coverage, 3 defenders right there, turn it over. And then we've complimented Jimmy Bell for his ability to just say, hey, I am big, I am strong, I can make a little jump hook with my right hand over my left shoulder. There we go. That's it. That's not enough to center an entire offense around. And for whatever reason, I mean, I know the reason. It's because this is what Huggins loves to do it. He's going to do it. He's always done it. They're going to run that offense through a big man. And Jimmy Bell is not as pleasant of a surprise as he has been in some parts of this game. He is not the guy who is going to drop 20 from the low post while also being able to inside out the ball and find, the opposite wing when he gets double teamed or something like that. That's not the game. And West Virginia is trying to run that game. And you see the results of these last two contests.
Yeah, Bell has played 40 out of a possible 85 minutes last two games. He's 3 for 5, and I have him, let's see, 6 for 16 at the free throw line.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say one-dimensional because that's not fair to him because he doesn't have a lot of dimensions anyways. He has a very simplified skill set where get it to him on the block and do it. But teams are just kind of like asking their big to take those bumps and to stand up and see if he can like just discourage his hook or contest his hook or whatever. And it works. He's going to get points on second chance rebounds. But again, 18 minutes Saturday in an overtime game, 22 last night. They played out of 5 for stretches last night, which I thought at halftime might have been a good idea once Musa Cisse got injured in the first half. That's 7'1", 200 and 260-pound dude there that was causing them problems in the first half. He gets out of the way, they go smallish and try to finagle their way back into this game. But going back to the scores, Mitchell Stevenson 12 for 24. The rest of the team 7 for 28. That's awful. Like your entire team, apart from your 2 leading scorers, gives you 7 baskets and 28 shots. 2 guys shoot 50%. The rest of them shoot 25. And then West Virginia likes to think of offense and defense this way. For their defense, if they can just debilitate the other team's point guard, take the head off the snake, if you will, keep the ball out of his hands so he can't distribute with it, whatever, but get the ball away from the primary ball handler, well, your defense has a chance to succeed because their offense can't function. In 2 games now, Kedrian Johnson, 0 for 8 last night, 0 for 2 from three-point range, 4 for 6 at the foul line. Missed 2 big free throws late. Saturday, 1 for 10, 1 for 4, 6 for 8. Saturday, it was interesting. He obviously, the one basket he makes sends the game to overtime, but he also added 9 rebounds, 7 assists. Not shooting, still playing. 1 rebound, 1 assist, and had no answer for himself offensively there now. So you're not point guard, struggling. Your guy they want to get the ball to in the middle, struggling. And then when you have 2 guys who can get it going, but no one else to help, that's problematic here. So the offense is the offense right now. They just don't do enough things well enough at present to compensate. And here they are, an overtime loss and a 7-point loss that was fairly close despite the 7-point spread at the end. Again, some free throws late, that matters, but what, 53% on Saturday and then 60% Monday. And then in 2 games, 35 turnovers there. It's 35 possessions just given away too. So kind of familiar frustrations with them on offense. And then the one guy you kind of want to get going is Stevenson. You see him get it going and he can't do it. And I guess we just go back to this, Chris, with Stevenson. Myriad options for Bob Huggins, but I think in the moment we got the answer last night. He has a knuckleheaded moment. Evidently he's gesturing toward Marcus Smart, which is kind of interesting, but gets a technical foul. It's his 4th foul. There's still some time left in the close game, and you just wonder, okay, will Huggins take him out for making a bad play and to preserve him, or does Huggins need him on the floor to make threes and to give the team offense? And he stayed on the floor. He didn't last much longer. He fouled out. That's probably a preview of what happens now. I don't know what punitive measures come immediately for Eric Stevenson, but Huggins was pretty adamant that this is not going to go on much longer. But I would imagine that starts and plays a lot Saturday because, man, what do they do without him?
Yeah. One, he can't do this. It was building up the entire game, and so much of it, I pointed it to, I think it was about an 8-minute mark of the first half. Jimmy Bell is at the line shooting a 1-and-1, which means, 1-and-1, the ball is live. Like that first shot, the ball is live. And Stevenson is so busy barking in Jerry Pollard's ear, complaining about God knows what, that Pollard has to literally shake him off, wave him off, and run away, kind of walk away from him because Pollard knows that the ball's about to be live. But Stevenson has to keep getting his word in. Bell makes the first shot. They start lining up for the second shot, and the camera pans back out, and there's Stevenson in Pollard's ear again as Bell's about to shoot his free throw. Again, the ball's about to be live. And then finally, Stevenson realizes it, sprints away from Pollard to go get ready to play. Like, it was just so focused on that. And he has to not do that. And somebody on this staff has to step in and make him stop. Make him stop. Now, Huggins is doing it after the game with his comments, I think. But somebody has to do it during the game. Because you watch both of these last two games, Stevenson's waving off the bench. He's raising, I got 3 fouls. No, you have 5. Like, you don't even, like, you're not even close to what you think you're getting here. Somebody has to step in and tell him to chill out, because it was building up the entire game, and it didn't seem like, and maybe somebody was, and he just wasn't listening. And that's why Huggins was so frustrated. But somebody over there has to be the guy, kind of like the guy on the football team who's the pullback coach on the head coach, who keeps the coach from running out on the field and is grabbing him by the waist and all that stuff. They might have to literally designate somebody on the staff to do that with Stevenson to keep him calm, because this can't happen.
What do you make of Huggins' post-game comments on this road trip? Because the one Saturday was pretty stiff, and you're thinking, all right, Bob, it's 0-1. You lost in overtime, didn't play great off a layoff. And then for different motivations, these are also stiff comments, more singular in nature, directed at Stevenson. But I go back to the game right before the break. He was pretty peeved after the Stony Brook game. And I wonder if he saw something, he knew something that maybe we didn't, that he's starting to express right now. And which makes me wonder, does he see something? Does he sense something that may be coming down the road? Because these next 2 games are no easier. And 0-4 is not off the table here.
0-4 is very much on the table, and I think that's why the comments were made. I think it was frustration and him knowing that it's there. It's very much in play of starting Big 12 play 0-4, because these were like the 2 most winnable games of the first kind of half of conference play, basically, and they blew them both. Like, they had a chance to win both of them and lost them. And as for Huggins' comment, and I think that's why he made the comments, I hate the comments publicly. I don't like the comments publicly. If I'm coach, and this, I'm not going into the Hall of Fame, so take it for whatever it's worth. I'm laying into him privately. I mean, I am laying it all out there. I'm saying everything that Huggins said publicly and more, but I'm saying it privately. I'm saying it to Stevenson. We are having a one-on-one meeting afterwards. And my comments publicly on the radio and with media afterwards will be a little more muted, will be a little more broad, about the whole team, not specifically about Stevenson, but in private, in that locker room, I am lighting his butt up, because it just can't happen. But I don't know what the purpose is of saying that stuff public, singling him out publicly like that, and how that's going to affect things.
He almost said it Saturday afternoon too. We have a bunch of BSers. We have people who want to, hey, look at me. And you put these 2 together now, and you can kind of tell that this is not just, I don't think he's reacting out of frustration from Monday night. I think he's reacting out of frustration that bubbled over Monday night that he saw coming for a long, long time. Frustration maybe isn't the right word. Anger, fury, whatever. But he's been down this before. He's managed these personalities before, as recently as last year. Similar situation that he had to grab a hold of, and he did. We'll see what he does now at this point here. But man, Saturday, Kansas, maybe the worst opponent imaginable coming to town, just because they're very good, and they take a trip to Morgantown as serious as anybody, maybe apart from maybe Oklahoma State. But just like, if a team wants to bounce back and get healthy, doing it against Kansas is not necessarily the best way to go. And this team just had a long break, so I don't think you say that they need a break. But man, heaven help them if they're not in the gym and Bob Huggins doesn't hear the basketball is bouncing when he looks out of his office window sometime in the next couple of days, because they certainly have things to work on offensively, defensively, individually, collectively. And here we go, 10-4, 0-2 in the Big 12, and losses against teams that, if they're going to be up and near the top, they were going to have to probably steal 1 or 2 on the road just to leapfrog a team like Kansas State, or a team like Oklahoma State got neither. And now if they're really serious about postseason positioning, they're going to have to get in a run. And to get in a run, just look at the poll, means beating a couple of ranked teams and a couple of KenPom or net teams that are ranked around you or ahead of you. And that's hard to do. And it's just as easy to go the other way here. We'll see how they fix it up. One more assist, Chris. You've got an idea, something you want to work on here. A little workshopping on the podcast. Take me through it. What's up your sleeve?
Yeah, let's do it. You got me thinking the other day. You had sent me a link. Somebody else had sent me something. And I came to the realization that, a lot of what is discussed on our message board between our members, a lot of the stuff that we do, the stories we write, the podcasts we talk about, in turn is used by others in the market for their own content. We have other, let's call them writers, who literally will read our message board all day, every day, pick out the hottest topic, and then write a story about it for their own site. We have another group that at one point made a YouTube video just talking about our YouTube video, which was interesting. And you know what, Mike? I figure we got to get in on this. I mean, if everybody else is going to use our content and our message board to make their own content, why don't we in turn use the message board to make some more content and some more discussion? So I was trying to think of some things and saw on the message board a lot of conversations, and I was thinking, hey, how about something like 2-minute take Tuesday or something like that? And then I realized you and I could never give a take in 2 minutes.
No,
ever. But that's where I'm trending to. And maybe, I don't know if we'll make it like a full podcast each week, like 1 week where we just have a handful of topics that we kind of rapid fire go through, or maybe it becomes a segment like this. Like, we talked about the basketball, and then we'll have a little segment here where we'll talk a couple hot topics from the message board and give our thoughts as well. Maybe that'll become the regular thing. Maybe we'll never hear this again. I don't know. We'll see how it takes. But there were a couple topics on the message board that I thought maybe you and I should give some 2-minute takes on. What do you think?
I'm in.
All right.
Yeah.
Since we don't have too much time left on this pod, we'll keep it to 2. The first one, and I've seen it discussed and I've seen it talked about. West Virginia does not need Jose Perez this year. Can we put that to rest now?
I've been on this for a while, and like the volume of feedback on it has really been all over the map, but they are lacking at the 2-guard spot. They just are. Kobe Johnson, Seth Wilson are just not giving them a lot of punch, a lot of potency off the bench. Stevenson can be terrific, and he cannot be terrific. And you at least wonder about what he's going to be like moving forward, because he does have that fire that powers him. And if you take that away, how good is he going to be? Like, if he's playing on the high wire, but they take that net away, that's going to be tricky for him. And you've kind of seen what Wilson and Johnson can give you. And I just go back to this. They had this roster. They tried to get Courtney Ramey. Couldn't. They got into practice. They tried to get Jose Perez. They could and couldn't. They know that they're lacking there. They know. And Kobe Johnson hasn't played in the second half of a couple of games. And that's an odd thing when that 2 spot has been as lacking as it's been. So I conducted the interview with Evan Miyakawa on our podcast, and he didn't think it was a great fit, which concerns me because he's probably right there. They need production in the backcourt for sure. I don't know how they wouldn't take him and throw a party about it. And by the way, Chris, that's supposed to come down today.
Interesting. I'm with you on it. Like, there's no doubt in my mind now that, like, I don't think there ever was. I think the idea of, hey, an extra year, that sounds great. But the idea of him coming in, I mean, you have Jose Perez at full strength for these last 2 games. I think West Virginia wins because the first game that went south because of Stevenson struggles and then him having to be on the bench and West Virginia not really having, as you put it, like that punch from the 1 or 2 spots in the game. And if you're telling me essentially, hey, this is like a Jermaine Haley that's like an inch or 2 shorter, yeah, like, of course, take that. And it would be a huge boost to this West Virginia team because he is somebody that can create offense. He is somebody that can give you that punch in that 1-2 spot. And I don't think there's any doubt at all that West Virginia needs Jose Perez on this team. And I'm with you. I think Hugggins knew it. I think the staff knew it. I think that's why they went after Courtney Ramey. I think that's why they figured this whole thing out with Perez. I mean, it wasn't like hey, we got an extra spot, so might as well. It was, we're creating space just to get this guy on the team, and we are going to fight the NCAA just to make him eligible for the second half because we know we need him. Like that should tell you something.
I like it.
Second 2-minute take. I don't even know if this is a 2-minute take. It's just something that we've seen on the message board. It was discussed a lot after Saturday's game, and I wanted to correct the record. And because I was able to find the numbers, somebody asked what was West Virginia's record with Kip Kissinger since the 3 blind mice comment. Let's get the first correction in there. Kip was not in that game. Was not reffing the game of the 3 blind mice. But
nonetheless, what's the record since?
But because that was something that was, I think that's not the first time that somebody has made that comment, but it was not him. It was, there were definitely some familiar names in there that everybody's going to know. The 3 blind mice were Keith Kimball, Doug Sermons, and Chance Moore. Those were the 3 refs in that infamous Kansas-West Virginia game between 2 teams that were both ranked in Lawrence, where West Virginia had a nice lead and went south late and some questionable calls, and Hugggins not happy. But Kissinger was not involved in that game. However, West Virginia's record with Kip in the last, we'll say 2.5 seasons. So the 2020-21 season to current, they are 3-6 when Kip is reffing, being called for an average of 20 fouls, but also shooting 19 free throws a game. Kip was, yes, he was the ref in the Kansas State game where West Virginia got whistled for 27 fouls, but they also shot 38 free throws in that one. He was the ref in the Pitt game early in the season. The only other time he's reffed a West Virginia game this year. And then last year he was reffing 4 games and went 2-2. Again, Pitt, Kansas State, Kansas, Texas Tech. Just a couple of games. That Texas Tech game, West Virginia got whistled for 30 fouls in that one. But that 2021 season, Gonzaga, Kansas, and Oklahoma State. He seems to get, a couple of these big games against West Virginia. But 3-6 record. Again, West Virginia was bad last year. So is a 3-6 record really that far off from what they were as a basketball team? Probably not.
I would be really curious to conduct a poll to think if people could pick out the names of the officials in the 3 blind mice game. Probably one of them. But they're probably going to throw – people are going to pick out Sermons for that one, and they're probably going to throw Kissinger, Pollard, or Hugggins in there too, and not the case too. I think what the frustration is on all this stuff is that it just changes from one half to the next, and like you can look at this pretty regularly in a West Virginia season, where someone like me will tweet at halftime, "That was a fun first half, 13 fouls, 17 free throws, good flow," and then the second half it's totally different. It's totally different. And I don't know what it is. Now, granted, games get more competitive, more physical in the latter stage of the second half, and the second half yesterday was physical. Like, don't get me wrong, it was, but it just felt like that some things were being called in the second half that weren't. And then there are just in 2 games now, Chris, they're calling a lot of stuff defensively and on the ball they were not calling early in the season, especially when it comes to ball screens. And you're seeing a lot more offensive stuff and you're seeing a lot more defensive stuff when it comes to contact. And what probably frustrates coaches is that they get these regular memos from the office, the conference office, and the officiating saying, hey, here's a clarification on this point of emphasis, and here's something we're going to look at. And I would bet you that most coaches look at that and roll their eyes and go, why are they even doing this? Because when they get into a game, those referees are trained in their own perceptions, and they're going to call the game subjectively, like the way they call games. And sure, the Big 12 will send out officiating memos, but the officials last night are going to be in a Pac-12 game or an SEC game or a Big 10 game later on this week. And they may come around to a Big 12 game, but like what's good in one conference is going to be different in another conference. So these interconference memos aren't very useful either, too. Just the consistency from one game to the next, one crew to the next, one half to the next. Gotta drive these coaches crazy.
Yeah, I was just actually looking at, as I was trying to get that data on Kip. I mean, he's done a few Big 12 games, but as you noted, it's been like SEC games, Pac-12 games, Big East games, bouncing around from conference to conference, and it's just not happening. I think that's part of the reason why, we've heard Hugggins over the years call for. Does he call for like conference only refs, or was he calling for something else?
I you know what? I don't know, but as I'm looking at his post game comments from last night too, just consistency. So that might be the one thing that if you can just find a way to streamline it and get people to see the same teams over and over and over, that might help. So maybe it is interconference, but he's always been very quiet about how he would fix officiating. I think he probably has the answer.
Yeah, he's in position to maybe help expedite any fixes. So if he has some answers, I'm sure he's voicing them to the proper people, maybe not publicly.
Quick prediction.
Mm-hmm.
Perez, in or out?
In. I think you put it well in your story that they're pitching to a different group of people, maybe a more sympathetic group of people, and then you're watching as Manhattan is adding players to their roster right now. Got people eligible the other day, and it's baffling to me that this got rejected just in the first place. So I'm thinking, against all evidence to the contrary, that the NCAA is going to figure this out and get it done correctly.
I think so too. We wrote about this middle of last week about the differences and why this might be better for them just based on who's looking into it. One thing that kind of came from that conversation, actually the conversations I had with that post, was what'll be interesting to happen to next season for him. Because right now he has next season. You could really argue that this season has been screwed up and not his fault. So would you take away next season and give him just this season, which again is not going to be a full season? It's not ideal for him and it's not his fault. Can you give him the rest of this season and next season? That's certainly an argument that's going to be postured at some point. I think if it hasn't happened already, maybe soon, but I wonder if he gets the rest of this season, but does not get next season. Because right now it's not both. But because they already promised him next season under the premise that he wasn't going to play this season. Well, if they come back and the appeal says, actually, you could play this year. Wait, what about next season too? Because you already gave me next season. And is the NCAA going to say, no, we're taking that season away. We're going to make you play half of a season, even though it's not your fault. But can it say, you can have 1.5 seasons too? I don't know what's going to happen there. I think he gets good news today. I don't know how much good news though, but that would be one thing that I was not aware of before that I would keep an eye on today.
That would be big. Yeah, for this year and next, because I was confused with the John Rothstein tweet when he broke the news that it got rejected and said, but they gave him eligibility for next year. And I'm thinking he already does. Like, just redshirt this year and he should still have a year of eligibility left. So what are they giving him an extra year? If so, that'd be nice. A year and a half of Perez, obviously better than a half of a year.
Just vintage NCAA too, to try to give somebody nothing and then give him 1.5 times what he's originally owed. Terrific. That about wraps it up here. Some hot takes uncorked, plenty coming on the site. News, good and bad, about football, basketball. Do you have a preview, Chris?
Yeah, I was gonna say we're gonna be catching up for another podcast later this week. Dead period ends tomorrow, January 4th. And after that, you could see some transfers be making their way up to campus. Again, I think a couple podcasts ago, I noted that first weekend in January, this coming weekend, could end up being the new biggest official visit weekend of the year. And I don't think that's an exaggeration. If you can get the people on campus, it could end up being like 7, 8, 9, 10 guys up on campus because they're trying to make a decision before mid-January so they can get enrolled.
The semester starts on Monday too, so
Yeah,
be interesting. All right. Well, until then, stay tuned. Keep refreshing the site. Keep your eyes on the email today, on social media, news, some regard. We'll see. Until then, I'm Mike Casaza.
and I'm Chris Anderson.
We'll talk to you next time.